What is up, sisters and misters? It is me, Mr. Junior, and I hate to have to be this guy, but less than 2% of you guys watching are subscribed, and I'm trying to hit my first 1,000 subscribers. So if you're watching this video, or if you've watched any of my other videos, and you enjoy them at all, please be sure to like and subscribe to support me as a small creator and help me grow. Now that this is out of the way, we can get into the actual video. If you play Pixelmon and you have trouble with losing Pokemon battles, whether it's against NPCs, bosses, or even other players, I'm going to teach you how you can lose less battles than ever before. Now, unfortunately, it's not a simple, surefire way to stop you from ever losing a battle, but after watching this video, there should be enough information that with practice, you'll lose less battles than ever before. The first thing we're going to take a look at is in Pokemon type weaknesses. Every Pokemon has at least one type, but most are dual types, and it's like a giant game of rock, paper, scissors, and your Pokemon will be weak to multiple other types, but that means that other Pokemon are going to also be weak to those types as well. You'll need to learn to be majorly effective by finding out what your Pokemon is weak against and what the Pokemon that you're fighting against is weak against and using that against it. Worry not, there are actually way more simple Pokemon type charts than the one I just showed you a minute ago, and I'm going to show you right here. So this is a Pokemon type chart created by PokemonDB.net. So this shows if you're going to be attacking, so the attacking Pokemon is on the left, and the one on the top or the right portion is going to be what you're attacking. So if your Pokemon is a fire-type Pokemon, if you attack a fire or water-type Pokemon, it's not going to be very effective. But if you attack a grass or an ice-type Pokemon, it's going to be super effective. Now, if you attack a Pokemon that has a dual typing, say for example, a grass and ice-type Pokemon, if you're attacking with fire, it's going to be 4 times as effective because it has dual typings that's weak against fire. So you can do 4 times damage if you do double weaknesses against some Pokemon. So I'm going to keep this up here on the screen in case you guys want to use this. So something you're going to want to note whenever you're going into a Pokemon battle is the environment. So especially when it comes to like wild spawns, the environment that you're going to be in is going to determine what type they are. But then, for example, if we look into this gym here, so against some NPCs, there's fire around here. This would be how it would be for like a gym in a Pokemon battle. Is the environment that the gym is going to be what type, you know, the Pokemon that you're going to be facing are. So since we're in a desert and there's going to be lava, let's assume that the Pokemon that we're going to be fighting are going to be fire or ground type. So Cacnea is a grass type. So he's weak to fire, ice, poison, flying, and bug type. So I have an ice type move right here, Ice Punch. If I use Ice Punch, it's going to hit him pretty hard. And as you can see here, it is super effective because it is 2 times more effective than normal type moves. So he just dropped Gabite. Gabite is a dragon ground type, so he's weak to ice, dragon, and fairy, which again, I have an ice type move. So I'm going to use an ice type move. It's super effective, so it's 2 times more effective against him. And now Graveler. Graveler is rock and ground, so he's going to be weak against water, grass, ice, fighting, ground, and steel. But water is strong against rock and ground type, so water is double effective against Graveler. So if I use my Hydro Cannon, it'll really mess Graveler up. He avoided it. Used Focus Punch. Let's use it again. It's going to be super effective. So it's going to be 4 times effective against him because of his dual typing is both weak against water. So then we have Diglett. Diglett is a ground type, so he's weak against water, grass, and ice. So we can use ice or water. So I'm going to go ahead and use ice again. And it's going to be super effective. So now we have Slugma. Slugma is fire, so he's going to be weak against water, ground, and rock. So if I use water, I'm going to hit him. He avoided the attack, but I'm going to need to go again. I hit him with Hydro Cannon, and it's super effective. So you're going to want to be making sure that you're getting those critical hits and getting super effective by using types that are strong against what you're fighting against. Something that you're going to want to keep in mind whenever it comes to Pokemon weaknesses is the more types that your Pokemon has, the more weaknesses it's going to have. So if we take a look at a Charizard and a Feraligatr, for example, Feraligatr is only a single type, so it's only going to be weak to grass and electric because that's all water types weak to. And then you have Charizard, who's a fire flying type, who's weak to a lot more different types than just one. So since we have more types in a Pokemon, it's going to be more effective. So some things that you're going to want to keep an eye out and what you're going to try to go for is going to be moves. So one of the best ways to counteract your Pokemon's type weaknesses is to go for moves that are going to go against Pokemon that would normally be able to counteract your Pokemon. So what I mean by that is if you take a look at my Feraligatr here, I have Ice Punch and Earthquake. And the reason that I have these two specific moves is because Feraligatr, being a water type Pokemon, is weak against grass and electric. Well, grass type Pokemon are weak to ice, which Ice Punch would be super effective against. So if I go against a grass type Pokemon, I have a move that can do major damage. And then if I go up against an electric type Pokemon, I have Earthquake here, which is a ground type move that'll be super effective against that electric type Pokemon. So even if I were to go against those Pokemon, I still have offensive moves that could potentially one-shot them. Okay, so now that you understand Pokemon type weaknesses, for those of you who didn't know about that or didn't know how effective it may have been, hopefully that already made you a better trainer. But if not, then there's still more to come to help you lose less Pokemon battles. So the next thing that we're going to look at is if you open your inventory, right-click on the Pokemon and click on his stats, you'll see here it says Nature. Now, what Nature does is it will affect your stats that you have here. So there's 6 stats, which is HP, which means hit points, which correlates to how much health your Pokemon has. Attack, which is physical damage. Defense, which is how well you defend against that physical damage. Special attack, which is essentially magic damage. Special defense, which is how well you defend against that magical damage. And speed, which what speed does is whichever Pokemon in a battle has the higher speed stat will be the first Pokemon to attack in that turn. So if you have higher speed, you'll attack before the other Pokemon. So how the natures work is if you take a look at this nature chart, there are 25 natures total. So some of them are blank, and what that means is that there is not actually an effect that takes place. So it's not that they don't do nothing, but if you take a look, it says hardy, docile, serious, bashful, and quirky. They don't actually do nothing, but what they do is hardy, for example, it'll increase and decrease attack so that there's no actual stat change that occurs. So it doesn't do anything and it makes them neutral natures. But then if you take a look at adamant, it says the increased stat is attack and the decreased stat is special attack, which is what I'm using on my Feraligatr. Feraligatr mostly uses physical damage, so I increase my stat in attack so that he hits harder, and I decrease special attack because I don't use special attack as Feraligatr, so it hits harder to make my Pokemon even more effective than what it may normally be, especially if you're using a stat that's not beneficial for your Pokemon. So you want to make sure that you're finding out what nature is best for the Pokemon that you're using. So if you're going to be using something like Charizard, Charizard is a Pokemon that hits really hard already, but you want to make sure that it's outspeeding so that it can attack first, because it can get shot down pretty easily because of its dual weaknesses. So normally someone will use a ground type move on Charizard because it's double effective, and Charizard will get hit and one hit KO'd because of that dual type weakness that does serious damage. So you want to make sure that you're really fast so you can hit first so that you can one hit KO the Pokemon instead of them one hit KOing you. And so since I don't need attack with Charizard, since his attacks are using the magic damage, I use a timid nature, which the red is the stat that's taken away from and green is the stat that's added to. So timid takes away from my attack stat, and green, timid, adds to my speed to make my Charizard faster, and it takes away from attack, which is not useful for my Charizard. So you're going to want to look for the stat that's best for your Pokemon. Some Pokemon have really bad speed and has really bad attack, so they're meant to be really tanky, something like Shuckle. So in that case, you would want a nature that's increasing your defense and decreasing your special attack or your speed or something like that to make your Pokemon more tanky or more durable instead of harder hitting. So find out what nature is best for the Pokemon, or what nature is best for what you want it to do. You want it to be fast. Find out which stat is best so that you're not losing out on the stat that's actually making your Pokemon do damage. And if you want it to hit hard, find the stat that's going to make your Pokemon hit hardest without making it weaker. Now you understand type weaknesses, and now you understand natures. So the next thing that we're going to be looking at is EVs and IVs. And what EVs are they are effort values. So if you take a look, I have trained EVs, which you obtain by defeating Pokemon. So when you defeat a Pokemon, they will give you an EV, which will add stats to your stats. And then you also have IVs, which I've made a lot of videos about how to get perfect IVs. So what we're going to look at real quick is I'm going to get two Pokemon, and it's going to be two for alligators side by side. One of them is going to be 0% IVs, one of them is going to be 100% IVs, one of them is going to be 0% EV trained, and one of them is going to be 100% EV trained. So if you take a look at the Feraligatr in the top left, that's a Feraligatr that has no effort values or individual values or EVs or IVs. And then bottom right is a Feraligatr that has 100% perfect IVs with maxed out 510 EVs. So you can clearly see that the attack goes up nearly 100, or actually 103 points, and the speed goes from 161 to 255 because the EVs I trained, or effort values, I trained attack, speed, and 6 in HP. So you can see my HP goes up a little bit, my attack goes up drastically, and my speed goes up drastically. But on the top right, this is a 100% IV Pokemon with no EVs or effort values trained. The bottom left is a Pokemon that has no IVs but has EVs trained. Even if you don't have a 100% perfect IV Pokemon, training EVs will still make the Pokemon that you have stronger. So what you're going to want to do is, for example, what I did with my Feraligatr, I trained attack EVs or effort values, and I made his attack stronger so that he hits harder. Paired with that adamant nature makes his attack even crazier. So you're going to want to train your EVs, and you're going to want to try to breed for a 100% IV Pokemon. Most of the time, your Pokemon's probably going to look like this. So if we look at my Kangaskhan's EVs, so they're all over the place. And this is what most likely your Pokemon's EVs look like. And how you can fix this is we have these 6 different berries here. So we have Palmeg, Calypsy, Qualot, Hondu, Greppa, and Tomatau. So what you do is, if I throw my Kangaskhan out right here, I can feed her some Palmeg berries, and what it'll do is it'll remove her EV stats. So we went from 71 down to 51, and if we just keep feeding her these berries, now she's at 11, now she's at 1, now she's at 0 HP EVs. So then her attack's okay, that's what I want her to be trained in. So now I can feed her some Qualot berries, and it'll remove her defense. So now she should have no defense. I don't want her to have any special attack ones, so I'm just going to feed her some of these Hondu berries so she loses her special attack. So now she says 27, that should be 17, that should be 7, that should be 0. Now we don't want her to have special defense either, so I'm just going to feed her 4 Greppa berries, and boom. So now that's all I'll need. So I just went ahead and got rid of all the stats that I didn't want from her. And then this Tomatau berry, you would use this to get rid of speed if you didn't want her to have speed. And these Kelpsy berries if you didn't want them to have the attack IVs. And that's all you would do for that. So we have Kangaskhan's EVs reset down to 0 for everything that I don't want her trained in. So I want HP, attack, and speed. So what we'll do from here is, if you see these power items, if you sneak over it or hold shift, it'll tell you what it does. So this item will be held by a Pokemon, which will reduce its speed, but it'll allow for the speed stat to grow more rapidly. So what happens is, if I put this power anklet on this Kangaskhan and I go and defeat a Pokemon, regardless of if this Geodude is supposed to give you a speed EV, I'll get a speed EV because of that power anklet, and it'll also give whatever effort value that Geodude would normally give. So now, as you can see, the speed EV went up, but so did defense. So defense went up because that is what Geodude's EV yield is. So it's called an EV because it's called an effort value. The reason it's called an effort value is because you have to put effort in by defeating other Pokemon to get these stats. So if I were to keep fighting, I can go out here, defeat this little Bramblin. It'll go ahead and give me additional stats. So now my speed EV is going up even more. So if I were to defeat a bunch of Pokemon while wearing this power item, it's okay. It's not that big of a deal that I'm getting these other stats, because if I keep checking it, all I have to do is just feed my Pokemon one of these Qualot berries. And if I throw it out, I don't want a defense, I'll give her a Qualot berry. And now, if you were to take a look, that defense EV is gone, and I can just keep training her with these power items. Once I get speed done, I can take the power item off that helps with speed, and I can put this power bracer on, which if you look, it says it increases the attack. So then I would just put the power bracer on, and then I would throw it out to defeat a Pokemon. So if I were to throw it at this hippopotamus, hit it with this drain punch. Now it's got 73 attack EVs, and it went up again in defense. So once I get all my speed maxed out, then I can max out my attack, and then once I'm done with my attack, I can use the Qualot berries or whatever berries needed to remove the EVs that I got from defeating those specific Pokemon, and then I would just max out the last few that I need for HP, and we'd be all set. Alright, we taught you about type weaknesses, we taught you about natures, we taught you about EVs and IVs and shown you how you can get them. So the next thing is going to be held items. So you're going to want to look into held items and finding out what held item you like best, or what held item is best for the Pokemon that you're going to be using. So for example, I have a couple held items down here. So one that I like to use for my Feraligatr is Life Orb. What that does is it boosts the power of moves, but makes it to where Feraligatr takes a little bit of damage each turn. So he's pretty tanky, so I'm not really worried about him taking too much damage. So Charizard Y. So I like the Mega Charizard Y stone because it increases his special attack more. Most people would say X is better because it increases attack and special attack more, but I don't care about the attack increase. I just want the pure special attack increase to make my special attack stat even crazier. Then we have a Silk Scarf. What this does is it boosts normal type moves, which Kangaskhan is a normal type Pokemon, and I have my Last Resort and Fake Out, so those are normal type moves that I'll be able to use to make it even stronger. And Leftovers on my Smeargle. Now what Leftovers does is each turn the Pokemon will restore a little bit of HP, and since I use Smeargle to catch Pokemon, hopefully while the Pokemon is asleep using Spore, each turn Smeargle will eat some leftovers, recuperating some of the HP so that I can last longer trying to catch these Pokemon in battle. So now that I have each of these, although this Leftovers doesn't help with fighting, it helps in my normal everyday combat with wild Pokemon, these other items will in fact make me even more strong whenever I'm fighting against other people. So I got the items that I want. You'll have to look through and try to find out what items you want, because there are hundreds of them, and unfortunately I don't have the time to go through all of them. So find out what held items are best for the Pokemon that you have, and then apply those held items. Now the absolute last thing that you could possibly do to make your Pokemon stronger is by using the proper abilities. So if you go here into the summary tab, you can see the ability here. So my Feraligatr has a hidden ability, which is Sheer Force. So it removes additional effects to increase move damage. So what that does is it pairs well with my Life Orb, because the Life Orb applies an effect, which is the damaging it at the cost of being able to do additional damage. So with Sheer Force and Life Orb, they work together so that Sheer Force will negate Life Orb, but it'll still do double the damage because Life Orb is boosting it, and then Sheer Force is taking away an effect so that it can do more damage. So I'm getting 2 times the damage, and it's going to make my Pokemon even stronger. And the stronger my Pokemon is, the less likely I am to lose a Pokemon battle. So none of this exactly correlates to skill with Pokemon, but if you take into account all the stuff that I just taught you, you should easily be able to defeat other people's Pokemon, because if someone throws out a Charizard, you now know about type weaknesses to know what you can use to easily defeat that Charizard. And even if you're using type weaknesses, but somebody's still somehow just beating you just a little bit, you can use natures to help you get that little bit of an edge that you might need to push you over the top. Well, maybe it's more than a little bit of an edge that pushed over the top that you need to get you to be able to beat those people or to beat those NPCs. How are you going to do that? EVs and IVs. So I've shown you how you can EV train. I've got videos on how you can get a 100% perfect IV Pixelmon. Take a look into those to try to make your Pokemon even stronger. After that, we've got held items. You've got your held items to give you even a little bit more of an edge that can help your Pokemon hit even harder than they already do. And then finally after that, we've got abilities. Look into what ability pairs with your item, or what ability is just really good for the Pokemon that you're going to be fighting against, things like that. So you can always look ahead and use the information that I provided you to figure out how you can best combo to defeat the Pokemon that you're trying to. So apologies again, because like I stated at the beginning of the video, less than 2% of you guys that are watching these videos are subscribed. So if you've stuck around to the end of this video, please subscribe, because you obviously enjoyed it and there's no reason for you not to help support this small channel. But if you guys enjoyed this video, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Take it easy and peace.